And I guess this will be the little intro into part two. I guess maybe a little quick NFL weekly update. Christian Wilkins, maybe a little bit fruity. Allegedly kissed one of his teammates on the top of the head, and that was such an outlandish thing. I mean, yeah, no weird gay things ever happen in a football locker room ever. Don't ask Micah Parsons about it. The Dolphins signed Jack Jones and Mike Hilton, so pass Jason, calm down about the Dolphins. I don't know if I've talked about the Dolphins yet, but either way, enjoy part two of the Vault episode. It is the New England Patriots sitting in my they might make some noise team at team 24. Their win total is somehow set at 8.5, which I don't really get. Like, I can understand it, but from my vantage point right now, that is way too fucking high. And honestly, because I'm curious and that just sounds so wrong, I'm just going to look up NFL win totals for 2025 and see what the Patriots are actually set at, because that, again, it makes no sense to me. Okay, so they're at 7.5. That makes a little bit more sense, and I am going to adjust that because yeah, the 8.5 just seems crazy. So Patriots 7.5. They might make some noise. And where they really might make some noise is this defense. This defense is, again, on paper, looks like it's back. Looks like it could be a top 10 unit again. Obviously, they bring in Milton Williams. They gave him a shit ton of money, and he has to prove that he can be the guy on that defensive line, because other than that, they got Christian Barmore, who I think is like a top 10 defensive tackle in the league, but he has his blood clot issues right now, and that's something that's always scary and needs to be monitored, but we just don't know how healthy he truly is. Keon White's there, and he's really flashed. They bring in Harold Landry, too, who obviously has a lot of familiarity with Vrabel. Bring in Robert Spillane to replace Jawan Bentley at linebacker. They bring in Carlton Davis to be their second corner opposite Christian Gonzalez. They're good. Like, this is a fun defense, and unfortunately for them, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter will not be there on the board. They will be picked earlier, and it looks like Will Campbell is going to be their pick at 4. You could argue Armin Membu, because it's like, okay, he might, like, because Will Campbell, there's still the, like, will he, won't he be tackle? I think he should get the opportunity to play tackle, but if you're worried about that, you can play him at left tackle, and then if it doesn't work out, you just put him at right tackle, and you have a really good right tackle anyways. But that offensive line at the moment, honestly, if they get Will Campbell, and they get Will Campbell at left tackle, Colton Strange comes back from his injury and comes back, like, in, like, decent average form. Garrett Bradbury at center is kind of a pushover, but he's better than what they had last year. Mike Wenu back in his natural position at guard, which he always should have been. And then they bring in Morgan Moses at right tackle, who's just a solid right tackle and has been for most of his career. The offensive line's suddenly not looking bad. Now, where this offense is looking a little worse, the weapons still aren't great. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1. It's not a bad thing, but he's also a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver coming off like an ACL injury, and that typically doesn't really go well. But again, it's much better from what they had last year. I would argue that they could get another running back too, because I don't think Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson are really those dudes. Matt Collins is a fun player for them. Again, he's just jump ball. I think Drake May is really good. I love him. He's a good special teams guy as well. So the offense looks like, again, offense still looks below average. The offensive line could be decent. Again, if Will Campbell plays like how I think Will Campbell does, and all of those guys kind of live up to at least their like floors anyways. If Diggs ends up proving me wrong, and he's kind of like, he's not Bill Stephon Diggs, but he's like a step down from that, where he's still like a top 25 receiver, then maybe. Yeah, but this secondary is going to be really good to Carlton Davis, Christian Gonzalez. Like, I think Christian Gonzalez is already like a top 5 corner in the league easy, maybe top 3. That's not too crazy to say. And then they get Carlton Davis on the other side, which is just awesome. No, the defense should be a lot of fun. Again, a lot of it hinges on Milton Williams being that guy, because when he was with Philly, Jalen Carter is getting a lot of the attention. Nolan Smith getting a lot of the attention. Where Milton Williams getting a lot of one-on-one matchup, where Milton Williams will be the guy that these offensive lines key in on. Especially if Christian Barmore isn't playing, all the focus will be on Milton Williams, and that, like, again, their pass rush might not be as good as people think. The secondary will be strong, though, and the offense has been upgraded. It's just still below average at this point. Maybe Jalen Polk does something, maybe Javon Baker does something. I have no idea, but if we're talking win total, and that win total being at 7.5, I'm going to take the under, because I think that 6, 7, 8 wins is kind of what my range for them. It's like hovering around 500. I think 7 wins is I'd be comfortable with, but who knows? We are sticking in the AFC East here with the New York Jets, who I have in my they might make some noise tier at number 25 with a win total at 5.5, which honestly, that just kind of seems unfair to me. Where this Jets team is still built decently well. And when I say built decently well, they have nice players. Their offensive line looks really, really good, especially if they add Armin Mambu at right tackle, because then that gives them Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Armin Mambu. That's suddenly like a strength and one of the best young offensive lines in the league. They still got Garrett Wilson. That's about it at wide receiver, so they should probably look to add there. Like, they got Josh Reynolds right now as like their number 2 wide receiver, and that's scary. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, that's a ton of fun. And Justin Fields at quarterback, where I have no idea how this is going to look, but at least Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson, they got that connection already. They are former teammates, former friends. They are friends, I'm sure. So we will see. I forget who the Tanner Engstrom, is that their offensive coordinator? It is. Look at me go. So I'm expecting a really good run game from the Jets. Again, the offensive line is the strength. I think Breece Hall had a bit of a down season, and I think he will uptick that. Braylon Allen is also a good back, and then we have the Justin Fields rushing ability. I think that the Jets are going to be a very good running football team. We will see. And then on defense, they got Quinnen Williams. Will McDonald took a big leap last year. Jermaine Johnson got hurt, but he's still solid. They like their linebackers with Quincy Williams and Jamie and Sherwood. And then they got Sauce Gardner, and then they bring in Andre Sisco and Brandon Stevens. The defense, which has been their strength and was their strength under the Robert Saleh years, no longer a strength, but it's still solid. Now, I'm not expecting like anything from the Jets this year, but over 5.5, I think that that's doable. They are, again, I think that the defense is going to be solid. I think that Aaron Glenn is a culture builder, will have that defense playing tough anyways, despite the lack of, again, we saw how, the Lions defense sucked when everyone was out, like quite literally everyone was out, but when it was just like a handful of players, they looked pretty good. Not pretty good, but like they played hard anyways. And now Aaron Glenn, again, barring injuries, has some really good defensive players to work with. I think the run game's going to be good. This seems like it's going to be a try to control the clock type team this year. But I would take the over 5.5 for the Jets. Like, I think 6-7 wins is definitely doable for them. Yeah, could be like a bit of a surprising team. I think they're going to be annoying to play anyways, but we will keep going here. Onto the Arizona Cardinals, who I have in the Boomer Bust tier. Their win total sitting at 8.5. They're my 21st ranked team at the moment. Listen, this offense staying basically the same. It's Kyler Murray, it's James Conner, it's Trey Benson at running back, who both got hurt last year, and then it's Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, Trey McBride, obviously, and this offensive line who's solid, but again, could be improved. And what I'm excited about for the Cardinals this year, actually, is this defense. They added a lot of good vet talent to this defense, and I think that's something that the Cardinals defense has been lacking. They've looked pretty good, but their front seven has just been such a weak point for them where they haven't been able to be that good of a defense, and that is Jonathan Gannon's calling card. Their head coach is the defensive side of the ball. But they bring in Calais Campbell on his retirement tour to finish his career where it started. And Calais Campbell, still a damn good football player. So they bring in him, they bring in Dalvin Tomlinson to be their nose tackle. Again, awesome. They bring in Darius Robinson, who couldn't ask for a better person to learn from than Calais Campbell for Darius Robinson. That's awesome. Then they have Baron Browning, who they traded for last year. Josh Sweat off the edges. Still got a guy like BJ Ojulari, too, who got injured last year. And all of a sudden, like, that front seven looks like, okay, it could have some juice. And I already like the secondary. Sean Murphy-Bunting is solid. Jalen Thompson is solid. Budda Baker's really good. Max Melton was solid last year. Garrett Williams was solid. Again, they could upgrade at secondary. They could still upgrade at offensive line, but the Cardinals are, I think they're like a solid team, and like a floor being their solid team, because I think that this defense is going to be much better than people will give it credit for. And Kyler Murray, who's obviously now further removed from his injury, said he wants to run the ball more this year, and I think what the Cardinals did really well last year was run the damn football. And obviously their offensive line coach and run game coordinator went over to the Cowboys to be their offensive coordinator, and I forget what that guy's name is, but I'm expecting the run game to still be good because the concepts will still be relatively the same. Maybe Marvin Harrison gets a little bit going, but like Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, those are two great weapons. I'm very interested to see how this looks. I'm excited to see what the Cardinals defense looks like in particular, but yeah, 8.5 wins also just seems high again. I don't, that just doesn't make sense to me. It is at 8.5. I'm going to go under though. Like, I think that they're still, again, I think that they're going to be solid, but you're telling me they're going to be like a 9-10 win team. That just seems unlikely. I still think that they're probably the third, maybe fourth best team in that division. Probably third right now. I literally have power rankings. What am I talking about? Yeah, they're my fourth team in that division. So, tough uphill battle anyways, but I do think the Cardinals are going to make a little bit of noise anyways. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears in my boomer bust tier at number 16. Win total set at 8.5. Last year, everyone was a little too early with their Bears takes, and watch out, they might be a playoff team, they might win this division, blah, blah, blah. This is the year for those takes, because last year it was like, oh, you got Caleb Williams throwing a DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze, but that offensive line just stunk. And now they bring in Joe Thuney, an All-Pro. They bring in Drew Dahlman, who's been awesome for Atlanta. And they bring in Jonah Jackson, who was great for the Lions, knows Ben Johnson, got hurt with the Rams in his 1 year. But again, that interior now seems fixed. The tackle spots, they're okay. Like, they're decent and they're young and they hope that they just get better. But now that offensive line looks much, much, much better. You have Ben Johnson, who's an offensive coach and one of, honestly, probably the best offensive game plan callers in the league. Did that make a ton of sense? I think it did. And now you still have Caleb Williams throwing to DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, and I expect a big, big jump for Rome Odunze and what he's going to do in this offense. The running game, DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson have some familiarity, but Ben Johnson also kicked him to the curb immediately after one season, so I wouldn't count on DeAndre Swift being the starting running back going into week 1. And that defense also got better. This secondary is still one of the better secondaries in the league. That stayed intact, but then they add in Grady Jarrett and Deo Odeyingbo to just add to that pass rush. This is a good team. It should be no surprise when if the Bears are a playoff team, if they are competing for this division. I have a lot of faith in what Ben Johnson can do with Caleb Williams, and again, if that offensive line is solid, if Caleb Williams is the guy who I think that he can be, this should be one of the more fun offenses in the NFL. And then that defensive side of the ball. I think Dennis Allen is an extremely shitty head coach, but damn is he a good defensive coordinator. And this is one of the best defenses that he's had to work with since those like really good Saints teams in like the late 10s, early 20s teams. Like, he's got linebackers. He's got guys on the defensive line. He's got players in the secondary. This team is really good. I am definitely going over 8.5 wins for them. I think that they could push for the division, but again, this is a very, very, very tough division. I mean, the Lions, 15 wins last year. The Vikings, 14 wins last year. I think the Packers had like 11 wins last year. It's a good team. And we will move on. We will go up next with the San Francisco 49ers, also in my teetering between tiers tier, sitting at number 13 with a win total set at 10.5 at the moment. They took a beating in the offseason. And off the top of my head, I'm going to try to remember everyone who they lost. So they lose Charvarius Ward. They lose Talanoa Hufanga. They lose Dre Greenlaw. They lose Javon Hargrave. They lose Malik Collins. They lose Deebo Samuel. They lose Jalen Moore. I still think they lose Elijah Mitchell, who doesn't really matter, but I digress. This is the most in the air that the Niners have been in quite a while. But I will say I'm excited for what this offense is going to look like. Brandon Ayuk obviously needs to get back to his 2023 form where he looked like a top 10 receiver in the league. But Deebo's gone now, and I think that's for the best of this like Niners offense. Now they got Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk. That's a very good wide receiving trio. And even at like the fourth wide receiver, they got Demarcus Robinson, who I like a lot. The offensive line, it's weak. They got Trent Williams. That's awesome. They lose Aaron Banks. They try to replace him with Ben Barch. That's fine. Still got Colton McKivitz at right tackle. That's not great. So in terms of like draft pick wise, they also have a lot of draft capital. So maybe they move up, maybe to try to jump the Jets or jump the Raiders for someone like Armin Membu. I have no idea, because that seems like just a surefire thing to do. Like, you could play him at left guard for this season, wait for Trent Williams to retire, or you just kick him to the curb, Colton McKivitz, and you figure it out. But I'm excited for the offense. Again, they still have George Kittle. They still got Christian McCaffrey. It's going to be the normal Niners offense that we all kind of expect. Obviously, injuries happen, and then we don't know, but I think the Niners offense is still going to be very good. Defense took a massive hit. They lost a lot of players, but they've been drafting well, and I give John Lynch some credit. So they lose Charvarius Ward. Luckily for them, they drafted Renardo Green last year, and he's looked great. So he goes in, immediately replaces him. They lose Talanoa Hufanga, but don't worry, they drafted Malik Mustafa. Yeah, so they're really missing another, like, good player on that defensive line, because right now it's Nick Bosa and kind of just a bunch of dudes. So I think look at edge, look at defensive tackle for them. So maybe this is like a Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, Walter Nolan type thing. I don't know, but for the first time in a while, I have like my doubts about this Niners defense. But in the past, when I had my doubts about this Niners defense, they made me eat my words, but that was also Niners defenses with Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner, and like the secondary didn't really matter. where now their pass rush isn't that good, so I guess we'll see. Robert Saleh, back at being the defense coordinator, just doesn't have the same guys that he used to. 10.5 wins, I gotta go under. Like, that's just way too high for me to, like, really take that over number. Like, could it hit? Yeah, for sure, but again, I have no idea. We'll keep going here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the next team, also in my boomer bust here, sitting at 17. Win total set at 8.5, because of course it is. I'll just say it right now. Take the over for the Steelers wins, because Mike Tomlin doesn't finish below 500. However, right now, Mason Rudolph is their starting quarterback, and their backup is Skylar Thompson. That's not good. That is actually terrible. I think I mentioned, I said, oh, the Colts have the worst starting QB room, and I was like, wait, never mind, it's the Browns. Wait, never mind, no, it's the Steelers. So, obviously, at this point when you're listening to this, you know what happened to Aaron Rodgers. Did Aaron Rodgers retire? Did he actually sign with the Steelers? You know what has happened, and I don't at this point, where I assume that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign there, but Aaron Rodgers is also a dickhead. So how am I supposed to know? And I have this theory come draft night, because I expect Shedeur Sanders to slide down the draft board, and then at pick 21 that the Steelers have, he will be on the board. And it would not shock me if Aaron Rodgers was like, I will sign there, just don't draft a quarterback. And yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers would hold a team hostage like that, but I think if I'm the Steelers, I listen to Aaron Rodgers on this one. I roll with Aaron Rodgers for one season and then maybe try to find a quarterback, because I don't think going in with Sanders as your starter week one is going to work very well. I think Aaron Rodgers can give some more juice to this team, but whatever. So I'm going into this, I'm just assuming that Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. Again, we'll find out. And he's going to be throwing to DK Metcalf and George Pickens. So he has two big body receivers on the outside who can just win at the point of attack. They're solid. The offensive line has looked better over the last couple years. Obviously, Troy Fautano, who got injured very, very early on in the season, he's expected to step in, take over one of those starting tackle spots. They really need another running back. Like, it's Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. Neither of those guys are that great, so they definitely need a starting running back. But the offense looks pretty good. Like, I can say that 2025 Aaron Rodgers is the best QB that they've had since, like, the corpse of Big Ben, which I don't think is that crazy of a thing to say. And it's defense. Defense is still solid. I don't know if it was injury or whatever, but from my eye test anyways, it looks like TJ Watt is taking a step back in terms of talent, where he might not be a part of that top tier edge rusher group by this time next year. I have no idea. They bring in Darius Slay, who's still playing good football as the opposing corner opposite Joey Porter Jr. Still got Cam Hayward, who's still kicking around. So, if they're not taking a quarterback at pick 21, I think that they go defensive tackle. Again, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, one of those guys should be off the board. That's maybe they go Omarion Hampton. That would be a ton of fun, but again, take the over on the Steelers win total, because they don't finish below 500, but it's just going to be another classic disappointing Steelers season at the end of the day. Now we're on to the Cleveland Browns, sitting at 32 in my rankings in the I Just Don't Care tier. Win total set at 4.5. Right now their starting QB is going to be Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. That's absolutely terrible. But what's nice for them is Travis Hunter's coming in, and Travis Hunter will get eyes on their team because he is just such a fun player. He's going to play both sides of the ball, and it will be a ton of fun. So now it's going to be an offense with like Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter, David Njoku. Okay, they got some pieces there. And then on defense, like, again, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Travis Hunter. That also sounds pretty damn good. Obviously, they hope that JOK comes back from his neck injury because there's been nothing really about that. This Browns team sucks, though. Like, I really don't care. Their quarterbacks are so bad. Like, Joe Flacco, that magic is not going to be there again. Kenny Pickett's also just terrible, so it doesn't matter. Their running backs are bad. It's Jerome Ford right now, so they need... Okay. So basically what the Browns need. They need a running back. They need a quarterback. They need a second wide receiver, but that's Travis Hunter, so they're going to get that. They need another defensive tackle. They need another edge rusher. They might need a linebacker if JOK isn't okay. Haha. The secondary is so-so. But add Travis Hunter to it, it's a little bit better. Like, this offense is not going to be good. And it scares me that Travis Hunter is going to be a Cleveland Brown, because what team is known this century for drafting busts? It's the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns are probably one of the only franchises who could take someone like Travis Hunter and absolutely ruin him. And I'm not just like, oh, he only play one side of the ball. I would think that would be a travesty if that's what ends up happening. But no, someone who flames out on both sides of the ball. That is what could happen because he's going to be a Cleveland Brown. Again, and it's not because, like, oh, I hate the coaching or I don't think that, like, the roster is all that talented. Like, he'll have, like, learning from Denzel Ward, learning from Jerry Jeudy, like, that's good, but the Browns have just such bad juju and bad aura around them. It's hard to trust. I think this defense, which has been a real strength for them over the last couple of years, that's going to take a step back. The offense in general is just going to take a step back because they'll have no run game and no quarterback play. There's a reason why this team's win total is set at 4.5, because it should be lower than that. Like, again, maybe they trade up for Shedeur, maybe they get Milrow or Tyler Shuck or Jackson Dart. None of it matters. They're going to be picking in the top 3, top 4, yeah. Actually, no. They will definitely be picking in the top 3 this time next year. And next year's QB class looks much better. It's not just Arch Manning. There's Lenora Sellers. There's maybe Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, who, again, I think if Drew Aller would have declared, he would have been the number 1 pick. But I digress. The Browns stink. We all know this, though, so we will keep going. The few more teams left here, and it is going to be the Commanders up in my playoff teams tier, sitting at number 7. Win total set at 9.5. Obviously, the Commanders had an incredible first season with Jayden Daniels, and to me, Jayden Daniels has really solidified that he can be one of the elite QBs in this league. He's already a superstar, in my opinion. And they made some moves. They made some pretty big moves. They obviously traded for Deebo Samuel. They trade for Laramie Tunsil, which is huge. So now all of a sudden they have a star left tackle. Sam Cosmi's still out, and that sucks for them. So yeah, the offense, again, got a little better. The defense lost some people. They gave Javon Kinlaw way too much money. They bring in Dietrich Wise, which I think is a solid pickup, but they could definitely use some more edge play for sure. Bobby Wagner's still there. That secondary also looks okay. Dan Quinn had them playing really, really well last year. Also a team with not a lot of draft picks. Obviously, when you trade for Tunsil and you trade for Deebo Samuel, you lose some of those picks. I think that the Commanders are going to take a bit of a step back, though. I don't think that defense is going to be as strong as it was last year. Again, we can see who they add, but like they don't have a lot of draft picks to begin with. And at pick 29, I don't know what edge player will be there. I don't know what defensive tackle will be there. Like, I don't know if there'll be a defensive player worth taking at the back end of the first round. Where on offense, anyways, I think Deebo Samuel is going to have a fun role in this offense, but he's a gimmick player at this point, and that's fine. But don't expect a ton from Deebo Samuel. It's still going to be the Terry McLaurin show. They could still use another wide receiver too to pair along with Terry. Maybe Luther Burden, maybe Emeka Budka, Matthew Golden. I think Tet will definitely be gone at that point. So should be interesting. Again, the run game was fine last year, but I think that Brian Robinson could definitely be improved upon. So maybe they stay at their pick. Omarion Hampton's still there. Maybe they like Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Johnson. I have no idea. Like Jaden Daniels carried this team last year, and he's going to have to do it again. This is, again, another one of like when you have your window open and a QB on a rookie deal and you know he's like really fucking good, you go all in. And I haven't gotten that sense from the Commanders yet. Like, yes, adding Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel, that helps your offense a ton, but I need more. And I think that defense is going to take a step back. Again, I don't know why they paid Javon Kinlaw so much money. Javon Kinlaw was not good last year, and they essentially gave him like a few $1,000,000 less than what Jonathan Allen got from the Vikings, and obviously I would much rather keep Jonathan Allen. In terms of 9.5 wins, like it's a tough one. Like they're right around that mark where I think 9 wins is very possible, 10 wins very possible. I'll say the over because I believe in Jaden Daniels, and again, I think the Cowboys stink, and I think the Giants aren't going to be that great, so we can keep going. Into the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers, who are in my could make some noise tier, sitting at, where are they? Sitting at number 26 with their win total set at 6.5. Offense basically stayed the same, and that's not a bad thing. Their offensive line was really, really good last year. Their run game was awesome. They add Rico Dowdle, so now it's Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, because obviously Jonathan Brooks is coming back from another ACL injury, and we don't know if he'll ever be the same. So those wide receivers are still in the game. Like, they could obviously still use another, like, true number one weapon. Like, they like Jalen Coker. They like Adam Thielen. They can hope that Xavier Leggett takes another step forward in his development. Jatavian Sanders flashed last year too, but this is going to be a run-first team, and I think that this offense, again, we'll see what they add at the draft, but is going to be average at best. Like, I think they're going to be a very good run-first team. Bryce Young had some really nice moments last year too. I've really liked the way that he was playing, and he looked like Bama Bryce Young. He made a lot of nice throws. Like, he looked like a very fun player where if they can just get him a number one weapon, that offense that might spike. But the defense was literally the worst defense in the history of the NFL, and that's not just hyperbole. They literally let up the most points allowed in NFL history, and obviously it's a 17-game schedule and yada yada yada. That's still shit, and I'm pretty sure that the record got broken in their 16th game anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But on that defensive side of the ball, they bring in Trayvon Moehrig at safety. They bring in Pat Jones to be kind of a depth edge rusher. They bring in Bobby Brown and Tershawn Warden. Bring in Christian Roseboom. Those are just a bunch of guys. Like, yeah, is it good to have better depth on your defense? But at pick number 8, this just screams like they're going with defensive player. Like, could it be Will Johnson? Could it be Malachi Starks? Could it be Jalen Walker, Mike Green, or who else might be there? Either way, they're going defense, and this player needs to make a difference immediately. Almost. Over 6.5 wins. I think it's tough. I think, again, 7 wins is possible. Like, this is why Vegas is so good at it. They are an okay team. I like their coaching staff. I just, not knowing who is going to be there for them at 8. Because if they pick Jalen Walker, I don't think Jalen Walker is that good. Or I don't understand him. He could be great, but like, it is what it is. So yeah, I think the Panthers are going to be like a sneaky good team, but I just still don't think that they have the star power to really like get into that next team. So I guess I'll say under just because I'm not really buying it. Next team here in the boomer bust tier, it is the Cowboys at number 20 with a win total at 7.5. The Cowboys, for the millionth straight year, did absolutely nothing in free agency, except bring in a bunch of former busts. They bring in Javonte Williams, who's a bust. They bring in Dante Fowler, who's a bust, but he did have a really good season and he's carved out a good career, but obviously has not lived up to his billing. They bring in Kenneth Murray, who's a bust. They bring in Kaiir Elam, who's a bust. They bring in Peyton Turner, who's a bust. They brought in Jonathan Mingo last year, who's already a bust. Yeah, this team isn't good. Just flat out, it's not good. Trayvon Diggs is probably going to miss the start of the season with his knee injury too, so they'll be relying on Deron Bland and whoever. And that secondary is looking weak. The pass rush, like it's Micah Parsons. Obviously, they bring Dante Fowler back, but that's still not that like great. Like that defense could it needs a lot of help. I think it'll be like fine, it'll be solid, but again, it needs a lot of help. And at pick number 12 for the Cowboys, I would go wide receiver. I would just go all in on Dak and the offense. And honestly, the offensive line obviously could be better, could get some tweaks, but Tyler Guyton, who they picked in the first round last year, he needs to step up. Tyler Smith at left guard, Cooper Beebe, who they drafted in the third last year at center, and then Brock Hoffman and Terrace Steele at right guard and right tackle. Like, that's like an okay offensive line with the potential to be like above average, but we just don't know. But like, if the offensive line ends up being okay, and you have Dak Prescott throwing to CeeDee Lamb and Tech McMillan, or CeeDee Lamb and Matthew Golden, hopefully they get a better fucking running back than Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders, and then you can like talk me into, okay, like maybe the Cowboys, like, again, if the defense kind of holds up, but this still isn't going to be a good team. However, I will go with over 7.5 wins. I do think that they're not getting enough credit. Like, Dak throwing to CD has been automatic basically every year they've been together in the league. Micah Parsons is an absolute star. They just need to nail the draft, and that's when I have no faith in Jerry Jones. But should be a fun-ish team. But if they don't pick wide receiver at 12, or they don't pick a defensive player at 12, like if they go offensive lineman, or if they go something complete, like if Jerry picked Shedeur Sanders at 12, I would laugh my ass off. But maybe they trade up for Ashton Jeanty. That seems kind of fun. But Cowboys is what it is. Now we are with the Lions, who are in my contenders tier at number 5, sitting at over under 10.5 wins on the year. Obviously, the Lions got absolutely killed with injuries last year. Like, everyone on their defense was just injured last year, and it's unfortunate, but that's the NFL. It is what it is. But now, these guys are healthy. They're back, supposedly anyways, and this offense that was one of the best in the league will continue to be one of the best in the league. They lose Kevin Zeitler. They have, right now, Christian Mahogany is slated to be their right guard, who was their 6th-round pick last year. So, maybe, but the offensive line is still going to be a strength because they got good players on it. They got Jameson Williams. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Sam Laporta. Jahmyr Gibbs might have a case for Offensive Player of the Year. I think, and like, not to discredit David Montgomery, I think David Montgomery is like a good NFL running back. Jahmyr Gibbs is elite, and you saw when Montgomery got hurt last year and the usage of Gibbs, like how great and how special of a talent he could be for this team if they really just lean into him a little more. So that might be like a maybe Offensive Player of the Year pick, Gibbs, but this defense, which was absolutely dreadful last year just because of injuries, they bring back a lot of the same guys. So Aiden Hutchinson's coming back healthy, Ali McNeil's coming back healthy, DJ Reader's coming back healthy, Marcus Davenport's coming back healthy, who didn't even end up playing for them last year, basically. They bring in DJ Reed, from the Jets to replace Carlton Davis, who I think DJ Reed's better than Carlton Davis. So now that secondary is looking like Tyrion Arnold, DJ Reed, Amik Robertson, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. If Arnold takes another step in his development, again, I liked this defense a lot last year. I loved Aiden Hutchinson as Defensive Player of the Year, and yeah, through the first 7 weeks or whatever Aiden Hutchinson played, he was the runaway favorite for Defensive Player of the Year, and then his leg snapped in half. But yeah, I have a lot of faith still in what the Lions can do. Obviously, they lost a ton of players or a ton of coaches on their staff this year, so we got to see how these new hires for Dan Campbell does, because Dan Campbell's a rah-rah guy. He's like Nick Sirianni, and we saw in 2023 when Nick Sirianni didn't make the right hires after his 2 coordinators left, it looked a little iffy. So if Dan Campbell can bring in the right coordinators, which we'll see, John Morton at offense coordinator and Kelvin Shepard at defense coordinator. Kelvin Shepard, former player, former Dolphin, I believe, so following that Aaron Glenn mold, but over 10.5 wins is just very, very easy. They got 15 last year. I think this team is still awesome. So we will see. The next team up here is the Houston Texans, sitting at number 11 in my power rankings in the teetering between tiers tier. Win total set at 9.5. This offense scares me a ton, because right now it's Cam Robinson at left tackle, who stinks. Titus Howard at left guard, who's like pretty good. Jarrett Patterson at center, who sure. Juice Scruggs at right guard, okay. And then Blake Fisher at right tackle, who they picked in the second round last year. It's a young offensive line, and obviously I think that they're still hoping at pick 25 or something, that they can maybe upgrade that left tackle. Maybe Josh Simmons slides, maybe Josh Connerly's still there. I have no idea. But it is a not great offensive line. And it's really just CJ Stroud throwing the Nico Collins again, because Tank Dell's going to miss all of this year. They traded for Christian Kirk, who I think is solid, but like Christian Kirk. So they could use another weapon there. Joe Mixon is still there at running back, who like he did pretty well last year, but like he's getting older, so I don't know how much juice he has left. So I'm worried about the Texans offense. However, the Texans defense, I think, can be the number 1 defense in the league, like runaway defensive player, like defense in the league easily. They bring in Sheldon Rankins, who I've liked for a long time. He's solid. They traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so now that secondary looks like Derek Stingley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kalen Bullock, Kamari Lassiter, and Jalen Petrie. That's absolutely tremendous. And then that front 7, Azeez Al-Shaair, Henry To'oTo'o, and then Danielle Hunter, Sheldon Rankins, Tim Settle, and Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson Jr. might take TJ Watt's spot in that top tier of edge rushers. I don't know. Definitely someone who I'm going to put probably a little bit of money down for Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, I think that this defense can be absolutely special. Like, I think that they can carry this offense more than it did last year. And again, that offensive line was bad. If they can add something, if they can add another tackle so it's not Cam Robinson, hey, and maybe all of these young guys take another step in their development and they all look much better. I have no idea, but I am iffy about how this Texans offense looks, but this defense is going to be scary to play every single week. Like, they don't have a weakness. That secondary is one of the best secondaries in the league. And that front 7 is one of the best front 7s in the league. Like, that edge duo with Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, watch the fuck out. Like, again, maybe at 25, if they're okay with Cam Robinson being the starter for this year at left tackle, like, if Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant is still there on the board, maybe you pick one of those guys. Maybe it's Emeka Ibuka, who obviously worked with CJ Stroud when they were both at Ohio State. There's options here, but I think this Texans team is going to win their division again. Again, it's a shitty division, so over 9.5 wins for them for sure. Next team up here, it is the Las Vegas Raiders. They are sitting in my they might make some noise tier at number 24 with a win total set at 6.5. Listen, there are things that obviously need to get fixed on this team, and that's just mainly the secondary. They have a bunch of names that are just kind of names to me. Like, Jeremy Chin is the best player in that secondary, at least in my opinion. I don't think that Jeremy Chin is like a top 40 secondary player in the league. Again, I have, off the top of my head, that sounds right, but I have no idea. The defensive line could look nice. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson still there. Like, they could make some noise, and Max Crosby is awesome, so like that's just easy. The linebackers, though, Devin White and Landon Roberts. Landon Roberts at this point is, I mean, he's a downhill thumper. That's what he's been his entire career, but he's not good. Devin White just straight up sucks. He got cut from multiple teams last year. He was on that Eagles Super Bowl winning team to start the year, and they were like, no, bye-bye, we don't need you. So they've got some questions there, where this is why at pick number 6 for them, it becomes interesting, because yeah, Will Johnson might still be on the board. Ashton Jeanty, who they desperately need a running back, because right now their running back is Raheem Mostert, who is, I like Raheem Mostert for Dolphins reasons, but Raheem Mostert in the year 2025 is their starting running back. That's not good. Their offensive line looks solid. They still got Brock Bowers. They still have Jacoby Myers. They trade for Geno Smith. But this is a year for the Raiders where build the culture, build an identity, and at pick number 6, you will be able to see what sort of identity they're going to build. I think that Ashton Jeanty will be the pick. They had a press conference a couple days ago, this is in April, but they had a conference a couple days ago where they were like talking about like, someone asked about Ashton Jeanty, and Pete Carroll leaned over and went like, be careful. And John Spytek, the GM, gave a very good answer, blah, 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 but it's just basically like, yeah, Ashton Jeanty would be nice. And yeah, I think that their offensive line is, again, pretty good. Geno Smith is a pretty good quarterback, and if they can just get that run game going, and they still have Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, the offense could actually have an identity. The defense is going to stink. We know this. I think like maybe they trade back. I have no idea, but yeah, the Raiders on offense could be fun, and I think Chip Kelly. I haven't talked about that enough, but Chip Kelly is their offensive coordinator, and Chip Kelly designs very, very good run games. So them getting Ashton Jeanty with Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator could be a lot of fun. In terms of the 6.5 wins, I will go under. It is the first year of a new regime. That defense looks like it's going to absolutely stink. The offense, again, depending on what they do at pick number 6, could be pretty fun. So I guess we will see. Next team up here, we are almost done. I can't believe this is going to be a 2-hour episode. The Denver Broncos, sitting in my teetering between tiers tier at number 15 with their win total set at 9.5. I thought the Broncos were going to be one of the worst teams in the league last year, and they absolutely made me eat my words. And now, that defense that was already so fucking good, it got better. They bring in Dre Greenlaw at linebacker, who was coming back from his Achilles injury and looked honestly like pretty good. And now we're even further removed from that injury. That's just going to be just a solid starting linebacker. They bring in Talanoa Hufanga. Like, that defense got better. On offense, the offense just kind of stayed the same, at least at this moment. They bring in Evan Ingram, who, again, they need more pass catchers. He's a solid pass catcher. Much better than what they were doing at tight end last year. But as of right now, the running backs still absolute stink. It's Audric Estime and it's Jaleel McLaughlin. The wide receivers still aren't great. Courtland Sutton is obviously like a very solid wide receiver too, but he's not a wide receiver 1. But on this team, he's a wide receiver 1. Marvin Mims is like a fun gadget player, but like that's what he is. And the strength of this team. The offensive line. This offensive line was so good last year. Like, leaps and bounds better than whoever the second best offensive line was in the league. And that gives me a little pause because you look at this offensive line: Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wadenberg, Quinn Miners, Mike McGlinchey. Like, those are good players, but there's no real like standout great players. Maybe it's Quinn Miners. He did have like a very, very good season last year, but Garrett Bowles is getting older. Mike McGlinchey's getting older. I think that, again, and this offensive line was so good last year, where if they just like regress kind of back to the mean of like a regular top 5 offensive line, this offense is gonna hurt just a little bit more. And I think that's why Bo Nix had such a great rookie season, was because he had so much time behind his offensive line to do whatever he wants, and usually it ended up just being a check down. But having all that time in the world, it's fun. It works out. But as of right now, they're kind of just running it back, and I expect that offensive line to take a little bit of a step back. At pick number 20, maybe it's Omarion Hampton. Maybe they trade up for Ashton Jeanty. Maybe they draft a wide receiver. I have no idea, but their defense is going to be really good. That is the strength of this team. The offense should more or less be the same as last year, but they need a running game so badly. So I think this is probably like where Omarion Hampton's like pick range starts, is the Broncos at 20. We will see. In terms of 9.5, I'm going to go under 9.5 just because, again, I think that they're going to regress just a little bit on offense. So we will see. Next team up here, we have 3 more teams left to talk about. It just so happens that the wheel hasn't spun on the Dolphins. I'm not doing this on purpose and saving the Dolphins for last, but we'll talk about the Atlanta Falcons here, who are in my, they might make some noise here at number 28. Win total set at 7.5. I don't have a lot of faith in this team. And mainly, I have had issues with the way their GM, Terry Fontenot, has built this team and the decisions that he has made. I think he's made a lot of bad decisions, and I don't know if Raheem Morris is their head coach of the future. It was fine last year, but there was definitely some lapses in judgment on his part, so I guess we will see. But this is a big prove-it year for this Falcons regime anyways, and unfortunately for them, I just don't think that they got the bodies to make it work, especially on defense. So I forget what pick they have. They have pick number 15, I think that sounds right, where they need to add an edge player, because right now their edge guys are Arnold Ebiketie, who never really worked out into being like a true like starter in the league. They got Leonard Floyd, who's been, again, a good player for a while now, but he's getting older. They drafted Braylon Trice in the 3rd last year, so I guess maybe we'll see if he can do something. And then on their interior, like Morgan Fox, Ruka Rororo, David Onyemata, like, it's all fine. None of that's great. Obviously, still got Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell. Like, that's kind of fun, but this defense is bad. This is not a good defense, and Raheem Morris is a defensive head coach, so I assume for them to just be a little bit better than what they could be, just because they do have a defensive head coach, but I don't think it's going to be good. I don't know who they draft at that pick, if Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker maybe, Mike Green, who knows, but I don't think that's going to be a difference maker on defense. And this offense, they lose Drew Dahlman, their center. Now it's Ryan Newsel, who I have no idea who that is. And basically the same offense as last year, including Kirk Cousins, because they're not going to trade Kirk Cousins because they owe him a ton of money anyway, so they might as well just keep him as a backup. That's fine with me. But I don't know what people saw with Michael Penix last year. In the few starts that he had, I thought he was fine. But people are like, oh, yeah, he made a couple really... And so it's like, he was okay. Like, he was not a superstar. Like, he was not making flashy wow plays in losing efforts. Like, Drake May, I thought, did leaps and bounds better than Michael Penix last year. Like, I thought Michael Penix was fine. But people think that Michael Penix is all of a sudden going to be a really good quarterback going into next year. And hell, he does have a good situation. Their offensive line is solid. He's got Drake London. He's got Bijan Robinson. Darnell Mooney was really good last year, too. They've got people. They do have people, but I don't think Michael Penix is that good. I don't think that the offense is good. I don't know. I have no faith in this team. So I'm going under 7.5 for the Falcons. I just don't have faith in them to just do whatever they need to do. So we will move on to the next team, and that is the Baltimore Ravens, who I have at number 3. In my contenders tier, win total set at 11.5. This is basically the same team as last year. They lose Brandon Stevens. They get Chidobe Awuzie. That's just kind of a wash. They bring in DeAndre Hopkins, who is definitely a cooked product at this point, but like, sure. This is, again, it's the Lamar Jackson, it's the Derrick Henry show. We know what to expect. They're going to play great offensive football as long as those two guys are healthy. Zay Flowers needs to be healthy too. They could definitely use some interior offensive line help, and I think that a guy like Tyler Booker, who should be there when they pick at 28, I think that sounds right, who should be there at pick 28. I don't know, but he's just like an ass kicker and will open up a ton of lanes in the run game for them. So that may be someone to look out for. Again, they could always use some more edge help with the way that they run that front. It's just interchangeable guys all the time. The Ravens just need to get out of their own way, essentially, where this team is awesome and has been awesome for a while. They just, when it comes to the playoffs, they constantly underperform. Mark Andrews is a big reason why for a lot of those performances, but Lamar doesn't get off easy either. The defense doesn't get off easy either. Like, there have been mistakes just kind of everywhere on this team, coaching also. But the Ravens are really, really good. And the Ravens are one of those teams, especially when it comes to the draft, where they draft so consistently well every single year, where this is kind of what I said last year for them, where even if there's holes on this team, like, the Ravens are going to fill them just because they do every single draft process. So I don't know who they're going to draft, but they're going to draft a bunch of guys who are going to start from them eventually, because that's just what the Ravens do. I'll take the over on their win total. I think 12 wins, 13 wins is definitely doable for them. Again, another year with Derrick Henry and Lamar together. It's going to be a fun offense again. Very excited for that. Now we have 2 teams left, and I will talk about the Dolphins before I talk about the Packers, but I have the Dolphins sitting at number 19 in the boomer bust tier. Their win total is set at 8.5 right now, but I'm going to check because the Jalen Ramsey news happened, and nope, we're still set at 8.5, so I guess we will see. This Dolphins team just absolutely confuses the hell out of me. Because I thought that, okay, if Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel had one more year, it would have been like, okay, like, obviously the offensive line hurts, but, like, we can fix that hopefully in the draft. And then if you were to look at our defense right now, where we need interior defensive players, like we have Zach Seiler, and that's basically it. But then it's like, okay, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, that's a very solid like trio of edge rushers. The secondary, obviously, it's a little weak, but like still had Jalen Ramsey, and then like Ashton Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu, who stormed. I don't know why I'm trying to talk myself into like, oh, the Dolphins defense could have been better if it's gonna be bad. But with the Ramsey news coming out, it's basically being like the Dolphins are waving the white flag. They tried that 2023 season was a lot of fun until it wasn't, and they're giving up now. And a lot of the quality, good vets that we have, they're going to get rid of them. So Jalen Ramsey, I expect to get traded on draft night, who I don't know who we're going to replace him with. Maybe that's Will Johnson at pick number 13. Maybe it's Jahdae Barron. I have no idea. But again, we also need interior offensive linemen. We don't know if Patrick Paul's going to be that guy, but I don't want Liam Eichenberg starting for me at left guard, and that's who is slated to start there at right guard right now. I don't want Matt Dickerson and Benito Jones as like the interior guys either. The Dolphins can do whatever the hell they want at pick 13, but they are just picking best player available. What really pisses me off about this team is the fact that Chris Grier has tried and failed, and now he's about to make moves that seem like his job security is there, because if his job security wasn't there, Jalen Ramsey would be on this team and they would be trying to win. Where now it looks kind of like a reset year or a retool year. People don't like to use the rebuild, but like I think we're there. I think that we're there in the rebuild. Yeah, I don't know. It just sucks. Like I don't think our defense. Again, I like our pass rush anyways, but other than that, it's not going to be good in terms of the offense. Again, I would love for when this comes out and that Tyreek Hill is also off my team because he's just again if we're doing this trade away like the star vet players that are older, like if you want to get rid of Jalen Ramsey, get rid of Tyreek Hill. I don't care if it's for a 6th round pick. Let him go. He's a bad person. Simple as that. Bad for the culture. Yeah, like the offense is gimmicky. I don't have a lot of. If we're talking about under, I'm going under 8.5 wins. We're not having a winning record this season. We're going to fall right back into the 8-7-6 win mark, where we were for decades beforehand, just hovering around 500. Yeah, it is what it is. Like I don't have faith in the offensive line. Honestly, I kind of like our weapons. Like, let's say Tyreek Hill is still on the team at this point. Like, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, we bring in Nick Westbrook-Akine, who was a touchdown machine for the Titans and gives Tua, like, a bigger deep ball receiver. We can see what Malik Washington can do. Running the ball, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright. That's kind of fun anyway. Still have Jonnu Smith. And, like, if we can get, like, a left guard, like, let's say we draft Kelvin Banks at 13, and now our offensive line looks like Patrick Paul at left tackle, Kelvin Banks at left guard, Aaron Brewer, James Daniels, and then Austin Jackson. Like, if Patrick Paul ends up being like a average left tackle, that's like a pretty good offensive line. That might be the best offensive line the Dolphins have had in like quite some time. But it's just that defense. And especially the secondary. Like, if Jalen Ramsey is gone, Kader Kohou is our best secondary player, and that is extremely worrisome. That our secondary is going to get absolutely killed. So unless we score 1,000,000 points like the Bengals, which I'm sure we won't, I'm going under 8.5 wins. This team is really, really disappointing, and we will finish it off with the Green Bay Packers, who are in my teetering between tiers. They're my 10th ranked team. Win total set at 9.5. They're essentially running back the exact same team from last year. They add in Aaron Banks on the interior for their offensive line, and now 1st-round pick Jordan Morgan just doesn't have a role on their team. So 1st-round pick last year seems like a waste. They bring in Nate Hobbs at cornerback, so now their corners look like Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon, and Nate Hobbs. Jair Alexander might get traded, though, so that might be a weaker spot. Their front 7 took a big step back last year, too. Guys like Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary just didn't have great years. Lucas Van Ness, who they drafted in the 1st round of 2023, also just hasn't really developed into anything. So that's back-to-back years where the Packers' 1st-round picks are just not playing for them, really. Which, if you're Brian Gutekunst, that's not good. And again, this Packers team is basically what we saw from last year. So I don't think that their defense got any better. And now you look at this offense, and I also don't think it got any better. Yeah, they added in like another guard. I think Aaron Banks is fine. They overpaid a ton for him, but now it's the same issue that they had. They got Romeo Doubs. They got Christian Watson, who's injured and probably won't play. I think he's injured. This says that he's not, but either way. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, who's everyone's favorite wide receiver because he gets open so often. The stat that was unbelievable for Dontavian Wicks is he dropped the ball 20% of the time last year. So every 5 targets, or every 5 catchable balls, he would drop one of them, which is absolutely insane. And everyone like, oh, he gets open. He's so good. He's such a good route runner. Man can't catch a ball. So if he learns how to catch a ball, maybe this fixes the Packers wide receiver problems, and all of a sudden they have a wide receiver one. I extremely doubt that, but the Packers, for the millionth straight year since Devontae Adams hasn't been there, which hasn't been that long, but they need another wide receiver. And I don't know if they're going to get one at their pick. I just think this team is fine. Like, again, they're running back the exact same team from last year. You're just hoping that the defense, where it lacked last year, those guys step it back up, and hoping that maybe one of these wide receivers finally takes, or they finally get a wide receiver one. But like, there's a chance that the Packers could be the worst team in this division. And again, this division's really strong, so the worst team in this division might just be 9-8 wins. But I'm going to take the Packers under 9.5 wins. Again, don't have a ton of faith in them. I think their floor is very high. I just don't think their ceiling is that high. But that'll do it for the Vault episode. This is almost 2 hours. I might split this into 2 halves. I have no idea. But you'll find out in August, I guess. So, as always, if you've liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell your friends, and until next time, peace.